One of the most important skills you need to use when making a history project is to use sources to support your points. Let's say you're doing a project about World War One. Here on the screen in front of you, you can see the point that I would like to make. Food in the trenches was often very poor due to the difficulty of getting supplies into the front lines. Now, if I was just to leave that like that would probably be a level 3 answer because I haven't used any evidence to support what I'm saying. So therefore, we need to try and find a source or a quote to try and back that up with. Now, I've already found one of those. I've had a look on this site, Spartacus site. There's often loads of sources on here that would help you out. If you have a look on the site, normally it'll give you lots of different categories. So here's trench food, has a bit of information at the top of each page. And then if you scroll to the bottom, they've normally very kindly put some sources down there. So there's lots of different sources here. Let's have a look and see if there's one that we can use. So we've got one here, number 2. Richard Beasley was interviewed in 1993 about his experiences during the First World War. Let's see what he said. In training, the food was just about eatable, but in France we were starving. All we lived on was tea and dog biscuits. If we got meat once a week, we were lucky. But imagine trying to eat standing in a trench full of water with the smell of dead bodies nearby. So what we have to ask ourselves first of all is that a relevant source that we can use? Is it talking about food? Yes, it is. So let's highlight that, copy and paste. Let's come back to Microsoft Word, and then we can just drop that in there. Now, having that like that is better than nothing, but what we really need to do is try and integrate that into what we're saying. Okay, so we might change that to something like this. Food in the trench was often very poor due to the difficulty of getting supplies into the front lines. A veteran, Richard Beasley, interviewed in 1993 about his experiences in the First World War, talked about the food, talked about how poor the food was in France. Okay, so we've included the provenance. It's always really important that you say where it came from. So we could do it like that. You can just make clear that that's a quote. Okay, we don't have to include the whole thing. We could break it up. We could just use little bits. It's important not to use very long quotes. So we've got our point here. There's our point. This is our evidence in the middle. And that's great. So that's better than a level 3 answer. So that'd be a sort of level 4 answer now. But to bring it up to level 5, what we would need to do is try to explain why we've included that point. So we might include something like, this quote clearly shows the poor food that soldiers had to live on when fighting, and also that in sanitary, which means dirty, in sanitary conditions they were expected to eat in. Okay, so that's quite a basic example there. I'm sure you can do one that's much better yourself, but essentially we've used a source to support what we've said, and that's exactly what I want you to do. Now the last thing that's important to do is just to make sure that we've made a note of where that came from. So we've used that from the Spartacus site. So what I would do is perhaps just put bibliography, just copy and paste that at the end, just so that we don't forget where that's come from. Okay, if you want to know more about how to write a bibliography, if you go onto the wiki, there's some information on there how to write a bibliography. The best way to do it is to use the Harvard referencing system, but as I said, there's a bit more information on there. So that's how you use the source to support your argument.